Well, we said it last week, it is the most wonderful time of the year. But the truth is, for many of us today, it really might not feel like that. Because the truth is, a lot of us are hurting today. We can struggle to find joy in what everybody else is doing, right, during the holiday season, celebrating with family and friends, buying presents and decorating and making food. Hurt can make the holidays really difficult. Oftentimes, we don't want to really even be around other people when we're hurting. We don't want to engage with others. Instead of it being the most wonderful time of the year, it can feel like our hurt has stolen Christmas. Some of us are suffering emotional pain, sadly, just because we live in a fallen and broken world. And it's just the sad reality that sin and evil have corrupted everything. And we all have to pay the price for that. And it's not fair. It's not fair. It's broken. Sickness and death, grief and pain have touched your life, and maybe you just feel that weight today. Sometimes we're hurting because of mistakes that we've made, and we can't get over the shame, the guilt, the regret, and it can steal our joy even around this time of the year. Sometimes we've been hurt by others. We've suffered abuse, verbal, physical, or God forbid, even sexual abuse. We've experienced rejection, neglect, or abandonment, and those wounds are still so raw. Why would I want to celebrate anything? I just want to curl up in my bed and turn the light off and not be around anybody because I don't feel like celebrating anything. Hurt can come and steal our joy. All this life that Jesus really has for us as his children. Well, I think we see the manifestations of this hurt. We've all been there. We've seen these symptoms in our lives in other people of this emotional pain. We just said it. There's oftentimes an inner rawness that doesn't seem to go away. It just is, it's always there. Sometimes there are feelings of anger or hate or resentment, and these feelings seem to rise up at just the slightest offense from others. Why am I so on edge all the time? These strong feelings of resentment, anger, and even hate, which makes it hard to forgive, doesn't it? It's hard to forgive when we're hurting. It becomes difficult to love and therefore forgive others. It can be hard for us to even love and forgive ourselves. We have sometimes feelings of anger towards God. We can blame him for what we're going through, what we went through. Sometimes we experience feelings of self-hate. Sometimes when a person is hurt from past abuse, they begin to think that perhaps what happened to them was deserved because of something that they did or the way that they were. And I'm here to tell you this morning that is absolutely not true. But the feelings sometimes are still there, aren't they? And they're real. Sometimes we turn to escapism. We just, anything to take my mind off of this pain that I'm feeling, this inner turmoil. And so I need a distraction. I need to somehow get my mind, my heart, everything, get my mind off of the pain. So we begin to self-medicate with sex or drugs, pornography, food, alcohol, even work. When a person indulges in escapism, that's when addictions start to form. So all of a sudden now, not only am I hurting, but now I'm spiraling in this addictive behavior. I think we've all felt the physical symptoms: headaches, fatigue, stomach pain, changes in appetite. We can't sleep. We experience psychological effects like depression, anxiety, withdrawal from social activities, irritability, difficulty concentrating, and then that sense of worthlessness or shame. Finally, hopelessness. Hopelessness. Hard to see why anyone, including God and others, would love or care for you. This is supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year. Why am I feeling this way? I'm not trying to hide these emotions. This is real. This is what's happening in my heart and my life. The emotional turmoil can become so unbearable, we look for a way to cope, and many of us, you know what we do? We shut our hearts down at this point. We become numb. I don't want to feel anything. And that's a defense mechanism. We're just trying to protect ourselves. I'm tired of feeling this hurt, so I'd rather not feel anything at all. I just shut down emotionally. I'm numb on the inside. Oftentimes we put massive expectations on our loved ones that they need to resolve this pain that I'm feeling in my heart. And when this doesn't happen, which is almost always the case, it reinforces the lie that we can't be accepted as we are, and so we sink further into the cycle of depression and anger and medicating our pain the wrong way. Now every perceived slight, real or imagined, sets us off, and we wonder if healing is even possible for us. Have you ever been there? And are you there even today? Maybe you're struggling with finding joy this Christmas season. If you are in this place today, I want you to know that you are not alone. You're not alone. Hurt is not the exception. Hurt is actually the norm. Jesus was really upfront with us, and he said, you know what, guys, in this world, you're going to have trouble. It's just going to happen because this world is broken. This world is fallen, and evil exists, and death because of Satan, sin and evil entered into the world. And so we are going to suffer. There is going to be trials. There are going to be trials and tribulations. But take heart. I've overcome this world. At some time or other, we're all going to get hurt. When we make a commitment to follow Christ, I hate to tell us, we don't get an exemption from being hurt, right? We want that exemption, don't we? Hey, God, I'm giving you my heart and my life. That means everything should be good, right? But that's just not the reality. In this fallen world, we should expect hurt and expect the need to process that hurt biblically by God's grace. I love what Lisa Turkhurst said. She said, we can be hurt, but we don't have to live hurt. We can be offended, but we don't have to live offended. We can be wounded, but we don't have to live wounded. So how do we begin this process of healing? I want to start today by sharing 2 don'ts. And the first don't is don't hide it. Don't bury it. Don't deny it and let it just eat you up from the inside out. Listen to David in Psalm 32:3. He said, when I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. So does staying silent, does that sound like a good option according to God's word? No, that is not a good option. Grinning and bearing it doesn't sound like the best option for us because it doesn't go away. It's not healthy or helpful to ignore it, to push it down because it's still there. It's still there. So until we admit our condition, recognize we don't have the answers for our pain, we're not going to fully trust God for the healing that we need. So don't deny it. Don't bury it. That's the first one. The second one is don't isolate. Isn't that what we want to do when we're hurting? We want to pull away from everyone and everything. And I just want to encourage you as much as I can today, don't isolate. Instead of taking our pain to trusted people, we often push those people away. But running away, hiding, gets you right where Satan wants you, alone. I read a quote this week that said, the only thing worse than being in emotional pain is being in emotional pain alone. By yourself, right where Satan wants you, so he can just take over your heart, your mind, your thoughts, and just flood you with just so many terrible things and thoughts. The problem is we don't heal in isolation. We heal together with the people of God in this family, in close, trusted, discipling relationships. That's what we're about here at Springdale. Putting people in these close relationships where we can find that healing that we so desperately are looking for. So please don't isolate. So if those are the don'ts, what steps can we start taking towards healing? Here's the first one. It's the first one for every ministry, every 12-step group. What is it, Emmett? You know what is it? Admit it, right? All of us know that. Everybody that's been involved in any sort of ministry, we know the first step is always to admit that there's a problem. Admit you're hurt. That's step one in our regeneration discipleship group that we have on Wednesday nights. Admit what's happening. Face the painful truth. Name it, what you've internalized. I want you to know that the only answer to your pain is to face that wound that's in your heart. If we only deal with those coping mechanisms, those symptoms, and avoid the root, the heart issues, we're going to continue to remain vulnerable to future attacks. So we got to stop. See, if we just deal with those little symptoms, it doesn't work that way. We've got to let God get into our hearts, that deep into our lives. The wounds must be dealt with. We have to get the trauma out no matter how painful. And this first step is the hardest step, and you should expect resistance from the enemy. Why? Because he wants to keep you right there where you are. He doesn't want you to make progress. He doesn't want you to experience healing. He wants to come and kill and steal what Christ is trying to do in your life. Let me destroy this person. Let me discourage this person. Let me get them off track. Let me isolate them. Let me convince them just to bear. It's going to be too hard to deal with what they're going through. That's exactly what he wants for all of us. To stay right where we are in that pain. Don't go there. You don't want to go there. It'll hurt too much. Do you really believe you're anything? God doesn't love you. God doesn't love somebody like you, or else you wouldn't be going through what you're going through. If you think about it, we really only have two options. There's two kinds of pain: the pain of change or the pain of staying the way that we are. So which one are we going to choose? It's really going to kind of hurt either way. So which one is the better choice? Which one's the better option? One person said the greatest trauma in our lives is not the event that happened, it's continuing to live in the event that happened. Another person said, when a trauma never heals, whatever happened yesterday keeps happening. It keeps happening. And we can't be set free if we stay there. So don't run from it. To heal, we have to face our pain and lay it all out on the table. Let's follow the example of Job. Listen to what he says in Job 7:11. Therefore, I will not keep silent. He already knew. When I kept silent like David, that's not a good option. It just makes it worse. I was groaning all day long. Therefore, I will not keep silent. I will speak out in the anguish of my spirit. How get it? And isn't that what Job did? For a lot of chapters, he is just expressing the anguish in his heart, in his life, in his spirit. So name it. Name it. Who hurt you? Who hurt you? What is the cause of your anguish? What are you feeling? What are you feeling? Name it. Put it out there. Anxiety, fear, depression, resentment, anger, guilt, loneliness, shame, abandonment, rejection, despair, grief, whatever it is, name it. Put it out there. Write it down. Journal it. Be honest about what you're going through. Grieve it. Did you know grieving is a part of the healing process? Just grieve over it with God. This is what I feel. And let the tears just flow, because that's healing, that's cathartic. Jesus said, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be what? Comforted. He wants to come and comfort you as you mourn, as you grieve over this hurt in your life. Understand there may be pain in getting over your pain, but don't stop there. Here's step number 2. Bring that pain to God. We're not just naming it and getting it out. You know what we're doing? We're bringing it to God. We're trusting and believing that He's the one that can bring healing into this area of our life. Let how you feel lead you to God. We need a better strategy than just gritting our teeth, trying harder, dwelling on that negative, repeating those thoughts and events over and over and over, and finding ourselves spiraling deeper into that anger and bitterness. We need a better strategy than that. Dwelling on it, but doing nothing to change anything. You see how destructive that is? Dwelling on it, but doing nothing to change anything. Have you ever been there, repeating in your mind those negative experiences, replaying those conversations that you had, dwelling on the injuries and the injustices that you've suffered, and it just, and you know how that feels. You know how that feels. Or asking questions really that don't have any answers, but you just keep asking and dwelling on those questions. Why me? What is the meaning of all this? Why did he or she say that? The key is that we're stuck and we can't stay there. We can't stay in that place. Don't run from God, run to God. Trust that He is the source of our healing. I bring my pain to Him, all of it. God, I don't understand this. I don't understand why this happened. You can tell Him, it's not my fault. I don't know what to do, God. I don't even know how to heal. We can be completely honest with Him. So what He wants us to do is not only reveal our hurts to Him, but then release those hurts to Him. Isn't that the hard part? Why do we want to hold on to those hurts? Why is it that we want to do that? It's so hard for us to release that to God. Why should we, here's really an important question for us. Why should we continue to carry something that God has carried for us on the cross? Listen to Isaiah 53:4. Surely He has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. It wasn't just our sin that He carried on the cross. It was all the ugliness and brokenness of this world. He carried it for us. All those sorrows, all those tears, all that grief, all that abuse, whatever it was, He carried that on the cross for you and for me. I want you to picture Jesus standing there beside you with tears in His eyes, feeling the hurt and the suffering that you're going through. You know what Jesus did with Mary and Martha? He wept with them. He felt what they were feeling. See, we don't have a high priest that can't sympathize with us. He didn't sit up in heaven. He came down to enter into our brokenness so that He could feel how you feel. He could go through what you're going through so that he could identify with you and sympathize with you and even plead with the Father on your behalf. That's how much he loves you. That's how much he loves you. 1 Peter 5:7 says, cast your cares upon him because he cares for you. He loves you. He doesn't want to see you hurting. He says, just come and just give it all to me. Just pour it all out and then release it to me. Because I'm strong enough. I can carry the weight. You can't, but I can. You take your burdens and you give it all. You give him your praise. You give him your thanksgiving. And you give him your hurt from your heart. You can put it all on him. You can cast it all on him. In the Old Testament, we have all these amazing descriptive names of God that reveal his character. And really, whatever you need, he says, I am. That's my name, I am. So you just fill in the blank. Whatever you need, I am that. One of his names is Jehovah Rapha, the God who heals. The God who heals. Psalm 34:18 tells us that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves. He rescues, he makes whole. This idea of he can come in and make you whole and heal those who are crushed in spirit. The contemporary English version says he's there to rescue all who are discouraged and have given up hope. He's right there. You've never been closer to God than you are than when you're hurting. It says it right here. He's close to the brokenhearted. Psalm 147:3 promises he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Can't you just see him gently and lovingly just binding up those wounds like a loving parent? Who do you run to when you fall and you skin your knee? You run to mama, you run to daddy, right? Because they're the answer. Let me bandage that for you. Let me kiss it for you. Let me hold you and love on you and help you through this. That's your Father in heaven. He wants to heal you. He heals the brokenhearted. I have to remember, though, that he's the source of healing and come to him so that I don't stay focused on my feelings or people or circumstances. I come to him with my pain. Now, we may have never considered this next step, but this is really can be life-changing if we can grasp number 3. And this is even kind of new to me as I was studying this week and preparing. As I was sharing on Friday, Jordan kind of, as I shared this, he says, is that from you? And I was like, I wish it was from me. Because it's just so strong and so good. Here's number 3. View your road to recovery from hurt as an act of discipleship. Think about this. What if our broken hearts are God's only way in? What if this pain that we're feeling, this hurt that we're experiencing is the only way for God really to get into your heart and life? Is it worth it if we get more of him? What if through life's great disappointments and sorrow, our hearts break open and allow God to come in and heal and make new again what was once cold and tough and callous? See, the devil wants to use your pain to his advantage, but when we surrender our pain to Jesus, he can heal it and transform it. Discipleship isn't just about coming to church. It's not just about coming to church. If you'll come to God with your hurt, it can become one of the greatest discipleship moments of your life. You can become aware of God's presence and care as never before. You can receive the tenderness of God's supernatural healing in ways you can't imagine. You can have a deeper understanding of his word than ever before. You can gain spiritual insights, not only about your present pain, but about every other facet of your life. Things that you can only discover and uncover because you are intentionally bringing your broken heart to Him. But you have to come to Him. And He's going to be right there to show you more of Himself, who He is, His plan for your life, His love for you. God didn't cause your pain, but He has a plan for it. He can make the best of it. Louis Giglio says, if He allowed it, He can use it. He can use it for His glory. Have you ever seen cardboard testimonies in church or maybe on YouTube, the videos? They're simple, but often just incredibly powerful. People will walk across a stage, usually during a worship song, and on one side of the cardboard is a one-sentence description of maybe a hurt or a struggle in that person's life. And they stand there for a minute, allow you to read that, and then they flip it over, and there's a description of the difference that Christ has made in whatever it was they were going through. It's just amazing to see some of these testimonies. I read the story of one this week that really just blew me away. It was a middle-aged woman whose sign read, "I was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer." And the man next to her then held up his sign that read, "I was the doctor who diagnosed her, and I was also an atheist." When he flipped his sign over, it read, "Through her joy in the midst of suffering, I came to know Christ." Then the woman flipped over her sign and it said, "Worth it." Worth it. That this doctor who didn't know her testimony, she didn't allow cancer to steal her joy, right? So even going to treatments and chemo and whatever it was, her attitude, her joy in her suffering brought this doctor who was once an atheist to Christ. If He allowed it, He can use it. He can use it if we'll participate with Him, right? And not go down that dark, negative path that Satan wants us to go down. There's a day coming when we'll all flip over our cards and say, it was worth it. It was worth it. It was good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord, because even when we couldn't see it or understand it, He was doing His greatest work in and through us. So see whatever it is you're going through, whatever hurt you're experiencing today, as an act of discipleship. It'll give you a new perspective. Next, we want to identify and treat the source of that wound. Sadly, the world, the church, is full of people who have never dealt with those old hurts and wounds. So how do we allow God to get into our hearts and disinfect the wounds that we've experienced? I think we find the answer in Ephesians 4:31 and 32. Let's read. You know what? We read these verses a lot. And I would dare say, as we start to read them, you're going to know them immediately. You're going to know these verses immediately. But here's the question. Do we practice these? This is what Ray said a little while ago. Do we really practice what's prescribed in these verses? Let's read them together. Paul writes, "Get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and slander, as well as all types of evil behavior." Did y'all know that hurt people hurt people? Yeah. So really, if you're still hurting, if you're still wounded, guess what's going to show up in your life? A lot of what's on this list right here. There's bitterness and there's anger, and it's going to come out in rage and harsh words, because we haven't ever really dealt with the wound, with the heart. So what do? What's the answer? Instead, be kind to each other, tenderhearted, forgiving one another just as God through Christ has forgiven you. The answer, we treat the source of our emotional wounds through forgiveness. Through forgiveness. Now, for those of us who have been in some of our discipleship courses here at Springdale, we know what forgiveness really is. Forgiveness is canceling a debt. It's canceling a debt. If we want to know really what forgiveness looks like, who do we look to? We look to Jesus, don't we? He's the model. We had a debt, a sin debt, that we could never repay. And what did he do? Through his own sacrificial actions on the cross, he canceled that debt. We owed him. We owed him everything. We earned death with our actions, and he canceled that debt. Now that's what we do for other people who've hurt us. But I can't do that. Why? No, they owe me. Do you know the way that they hurt me? And you expect me just to let them off the hook? To forgive them? That's not right. That's not fair. I love what Ray says. Everybody loves the gospel when it applies to them, but not when we have to practice it with other people. Right? Oh, God, I so appreciate every day your mercies are new, your love, your grace, your forgiveness. The gospel just wash over me, cleanse me, forgive me. But then when it comes time to forgive that person that's hurt me, nope, not going to do it. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. But neither did we. Neither did we. Forgiveness is a choice, not a feeling. It's given, not earned. It's an act of grace. Just as by the grace of God we receive that forgiveness, by grace we extend it to others. Here's an exercise for us to do today. Here's what I want us to do. I want you to think about, identify, who was it that hurt you? Just make a mental note. You can even write it down if you've got something to write with. Who was it that hurt you? Who owes you? Maybe it's another person. Maybe you even think it's God. And then here's the next question. What do you feel like they owe you? What do they owe you? Give it a name. You owe me this. And then I want you to ask yourself, do you want to get well or do you want to get even? And some of you still might think, no, I'm still trying to get even. But God is standing here today offering you healing. He wants you to be well. He doesn't want you to be angry and bitter. He wants you to be well. If we're going to be released from our hurts, we have to cancel the debt. Now, hear me. That doesn't mean we're condoning what they did. It doesn't mean we're giving them our stamp of approval. It doesn't mean we're letting them off the hook. We're not letting them walk all over us. We're not overlooking, forgetting, pretending we were never hurt. We're doing what the great physician prescribes for our heart, our healing. That's what we're doing. And then we're going to allow God to just do whatever he would like with that person. Right? I'm just going to trust you, God. This is what you say I should do for my healing, and I'm going to hand that person over for justice, for whatever, to you. I'm not the one who's going to bring the hammer down anymore. I'm canceling the debt. So what past experience or hurtful word or person is still harmfully affecting your life today? Enter to this healing process and keep giving it to God, because I'm telling you, you're going to give it to God and you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to pick it back up again, because we don't want to release it. And so I have to give it to him again, and then maybe a couple hours later, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to feel those feelings again, that anger, that bitterness, and guess what I'm going to have to do? Give it to God again. It's a process. But you've got to start the process, right? You've got to enter into the process. So do that today. Let the gospel start to fill those old wounds. Let the healing love of Christ get down into those wounded parts of our soul so that we can radiate God's goodness and forgiveness. Nothing can change your past, but God can heal your broken heart. Be assured He can heal your broken heart. Finally, today as we close, we want to lift our eyes up and fix them on Jesus and refocus on the future that He has for us. Do you know God has plans in the future for you, and they're good? They're good. And we get so weighed down with all this other stuff that really it's Satan that he wants for us. When he wants us to just lift our eyes and refocus on the future. He doesn't want us to be bitter, angry, hate-filled, depressed, lonely, emotionally pained for the rest of our lives. He wants to bring salvation and healing and goodness and peace and joy into our lives. He's not done with you. So let me pray for you today.